Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 348. Woo. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I am joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Hi, Hi, Saturn. How's it going?
It's good.
That's good.
How
I've
you
only
been,
sitting?
Justin?
Oh, just been great. Just peachy. Don't really have any housekeeping.
Yeah.
Things are hopefully returning to normal, at least as far as recording schedules and stuff.
Yeah, clearly not
Seem to go.
normal after those last couple seconds.
I don't know that I'm ever going to get back to normal. But we'll see. I mean, anything could happen, right?
Yeah. No, it can't.
My week.
Yes, sir.
I played the Elden Ring.
I've heard about that from Everything Everywhere. That's the only thing anything else talk about.
Yep, I know everything. Steam Deck and Elden Ring, and Elden Ring on the Steam Deck, and Elden Ring and Steam Deck.
Yeah.
It's I borrowed a PC copy, and I put in.
You checked it out from the library.
Checked it out from the library. Put because I wasn't gonna buy it. Everyone is all excited about it right now, and I'm just like, man, I just don't know if I've got another Souls game in me, you know. I very much enjoyed my time with Dark Souls. I just don't know that I want to return to it. And so I was like, well, maybe when it goes on sale. I don't think I've got $60 of ambition in me for it, you know. And so I borrowed a copy. Yeah. And I was playing it, and it's a Souls game.
That's true.
I immediately I was confused because I'm seeing so many articles talking about how it's the most accessible Souls game yet. And I found a wonderful article by Rock Paper Shotgun recently posted that said, what did it say? It said, it was like, all things considered, eating a hot bowl of sick is better than eating a cold bowl of sick. And I was like, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Ouch.
It's you know, their point being that saying it's the most accessible Souls game is like saying it's the least stinky turd. Like, it's still very hard.
Still very stinky.
And so I'm playing it, and it just the open world part is cool. Having the mount that you can ride around on is cool. It's very fun. It's very fluid. It plays really good. They've added features from later games. You've got to jump now, and you can sneak around.
I like that it's 2022, and one of the features is you can jump now.
You can jump now, and it just. I don't know. I played a couple different classes. I played Samurai is what I started as, and then I switched to Vagabond or whatever the default one is that I usually play as. I made it to 3 separate bosses. 2 I found on my own, and 1 which was like the first main story boss. So I put in a good amount of time playing all of that, getting used to everything, going through the motions, leveling up my character, and I was enjoying it, but it wasn't more compelling to me than Dark Souls. And I already own all 3 Dark Souls and Demon's Souls.
Right.
And so in my head, I'm like, it's not that it's bad. It's just kind of more of the same with some new stuff. And I don't know that that's $60 of compelling for me. And I made it to the first boss, and he was brutally difficult. And then I started cheating. I was like, well, maybe if I cheat a little bit, I'll enjoy it some more.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to cheat too much, because obviously in a game where the main feature is the high difficulty, just turning on infinite health just kind of removes the point of playing the game.
Right.
So I set it so that when I died, I didn't lose my currency. So in Dark Souls, your currency is what you use to buy everything and buy all of your stats. There is no natural leveling up. You have to purchase your levels.
Okay.
And anytime you die in Dark Souls, you drop all your currency on the ground, and if you don't pick it back up and you die again, it's erased forever. But the trick of the game is that anytime you rest at a point where you are able to level up, every enemy you've killed respawns.
Right.
So it creates this gameplay loop of you wanting to kind of hold on to as many as you can, clear out whole zones of guys because a zone gets progressively easier as you kill people, but you also don't want to die and lose your stuff.
Right.
And so I just made it so I don't drop my currency when I die. So it's still a hard game. I'm still going to have to grind a lot in it, but it takes a little bit of the edge off, right? And I played some more and I was like, yeah, I don't know. It just was not compelling to me. It was interesting. I'm very interested in the world and the characters and all that stuff they have going on, but I don't know that I want to slog through another 100 hours of a game that I'm not going to be able to physically finish to experience it. I played all 4 of the previous Souls games, not accounting for Bloodborne or Sekiro, but Souls isn't in the name, so I played Demon Souls and all the Dark Souls. Yeah. Never beat any of them. Despite putting in tons of hours on each of them, I just physically could not do it.
Right.
And so I think like going into a new $60 experience, knowing that I won't complete it is just not a compelling idea for me right now.
That's fair.
Which isn't to say I had a bad time with it, that I think it's a bad game. I know our producer Guy is playing the crap out of it right now, and he was saying to me, he was like, it's my first Souls game. He's like, I kind of tried the other ones and didn't like them. This is the first one he's really like sinking his teeth into. And I was like, man, I wish it was my first Souls game because what a first Souls game to play.
Right.
But I've already played several of them, and it's not enough new for me to get back in that saddle again.
Yeah, I think Pablo's playing it as well.
Yeah, Pablo's also playing it.
Yeah.
Really, everyone except for us, I think, is playing it at this point.
It's,
so I've still got it borrowed on my hard drive. Maybe I'll return to it one day, but I just, as soon as I hit a wall and turn it off, I just don't feel compelled to go back to it. I've got other things to play.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's my Elden Ring review.
Yeah, I finished Infernax, and
yes,
and then I finished it 5 more times to get all the endings.
I'm still working on it. This weekend I'm going to finish my first playthrough, I think,
nice,
and then hopefully do another one.
Nice. It's fun. I stick with my previous review. It is good. It very much feels like those 8-bit games. It definitely gets harder than where I was before. The final dungeons are the ultimate good final dungeon is just such a slog because that dungeon is about as big as the overworld, maybe a little bigger.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and there's no save points in it.
Thankfully, speaking of very difficult games, but with accessibility options from software,
right.
Infernax is a very hard game that has lots of great accessibility options by way of cheats and difficulty modes.
Yes. So good on them. It's,
just putting it out there from software,
right?
A little tiny indie developer showing you up on accessibility features. Just throwing it out there, Nintendo.
Right. Also, FF6 Pixel Remaster came out since the last time that we recorded, and I am already at the end of it. I'm right.
There you go. I'm on Locke's scenario.
Okay, so you're at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, it's a couple hours in.
That's the beginning.
A couple hours.
And so. We'll talk about it more on a later episode after I've finished it and everything. But I will say it's a fine port for people who are just looking for a way to play FF6 and don't readily have it available and just want to buy a copy and just play it. It's fine. It's a perfectly fine way to play. It has some weird bugs in it. Just some weird I've gotten locked in the game twice now where I just got stuck out of bounds and couldn't move.
Now, they just issued a big update for it.
They did. But I don't think it fixed everything because I'm still having some bugs. There's just some weird stuff. Like, apparently, so when Gao uses his rages now, it shows a casting animation for him starting them instead of him just immediately using enemy attacks.
Yeah.
And because it shows a casting animation, Celis's runic can apparently absorb it as if it's a spell. And then she has his rage instead. And just weird stuff like that. And sometimes when Mog does his dance, other characters will just start dancing instead. And then Mog is locked doing nothing, and that character is stuck doing the dance for the rest of the battle.
That's nice.
Just weird things. Really weird things. There's some just bizarre issues with the overworld and with the battle programming, which
I'm at 10 hours of playtime, sir.
I'm at 40.
Sir.
So
I checked.
Yeah, I can't believe you've gotten 10 hours in and you're still... Anyway.
Well, it's, to be fair, I think 3.5 is actual gameplay. The rest was grinding on the river.
Yeah, that's true. You did do some of that. And Locke will be your least leveled character because you were grinding on the river. So that one scenario
going
is
back to
hard.
Locke, because I just did Sabin's scenario. I'm going back to Locke, I'm like, ugh, no.
Yeah, it's tough. Fortunately, as soon as you get Celis in that scenario, she'll be way higher level than him, so it'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
But no, it's just some weird issues, especially since the original FF6 was a buggy game to begin with.
Yeah.
But the original's bugs were things that you probably wouldn't encounter unless you were really looking for stuff. The bugs in this one, they just show up sometimes. So I'm hoping that it gets more patches. I'll say that.
They seem keen to patch it. I feel like this one got a patch quicker than the previous ones.
Yeah. It is frustrating though, because this one got delayed so long compared to the other ones.
Yeah.
And then
they didn't delay it because they were fixing it. Right. They were investigating NFTs and they got busy. And they're going to figure it out later.
They had to implement more 2D HD into it.
Relax.
Yeah.
Let's talk news. Okay. New Pokemon already. It seems so fast.
Right. What did they call it? Scarlet and something.
Scarlet and Violet?
Sure.
Is that it?
It's
Violent Kin.
Yeah, Violent Kin.
Which is exciting. Sword and Shield, I feel, weren't they like 2019?
That's 3 years ago.
Yeah, but still, I guess just the idea of two different Pokemon generations on the same system, although they did that with GBA.
And DS and 3DS.
And DS. I guess that's not that weird.
Yeah.
Guess it's not that weird.
And
3DS
Game Boy
had
Color.
Sun and Moon and X and Y. DS had Pearl and Black and White. DS also had Black and White too. I guess I don't know why it feels so strange. I guess
and 3DS had X and Y and Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
I think it's Arceus just recently coming out that's throwing me.
Yeah, and plus there was
just came out.
Plus there was the Let's Go games. So this is technically the 4th Pokemon release on the Switch.
Yeah. SilentHill.com was bought by an anonymous person who replaced the website with a picture of a tweet from character designer Masahiro Ito that says, "I wish I hadn't designed fucking Pyramid Head."
And you can still go there and see this tweet, at least as of the time of this recording. It's great. I commend whoever bought that domain. Good for you.
Why did that come up for... Yep, it's just a picture of that tweet.
Yeah.
Wish I hadn't designed fucking Pyramid Head. And his profile picture is fucking Pyramid Head.
Which, if you haven't followed Masahiro Ito on Twitter, he is the most wholesome and funny designer of disturbing imagery there has ever been.
Yeah. Horrible monsters.
Yes, but great Twitter feed, just very fun and wholesome. But he does not appreciate the way that Pyramid Head has been over-sexualized by everyone. Mm-hmm. And also he doesn't appreciate Konami allowing it to become the mascot of the franchise. But the version of Pyramid Head that is on his profile picture is the version from the movie after that already happened. So it's even funnier to me.
Sid Meier, of all people, is warning publishers not to fall into monetization traps. I guess he hasn't heard about smartphones. Someone should tell him.
I was thinking about it, and I was trying to think of any Civ games that were just inundated with microtransactions, and then I realized it's like all of them now. Civ 5 and 6 are both just bogged down with microtransactions.
Warning publishers not to fall into monetization traps is like he's shouting down a 40-foot pit to the mangled corpse of video games that's been impaled on spikes. Like, hey, watch out!
I assume he's been at his desk programming this entire time and just looked up and learned that microtransactions happened this whole time.
What's an iPhone? What's horse armor? Wait a minute.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, good. Don't fall into those traps. But what do you?
Yeah.
What?
What year is this?
An unreleased racing game, Zero Racers, which presumably has more than 0 racers, was complete and ready for release on Virtual Boy, according to former Nintendo localization producer.
Yeah, this was...
which puts the number of Virtual Boy games up at like 18.
Yeah, something like that. So this was a spinoff of F-Zero. that was originally called F-Zero VB or F-Zero 2 by magazines. And then Nintendo started calling it Zero Racers. And like people had wondered how far along it was because there were plenty of pictures of it shown back in the day. And somebody recently interviewed somebody from Nintendo, and he was like, no, it wasn't just like some pictures. It was done. We already localized it. It was ready. We had manuals written up for it.
Yeah.
So it was further along than we thought.
Yeah. TGS 2022 will be live and in person again, at least for right now.
Yeah.
Things could change between now and then. When's TGS happen? Is it summer?
September.
Oh, it's later in the year.
Yeah.
So cool. That's good.
Yeah.
Still no word on E3. I suspect E3 will remain digital.
Yeah, we'll see.
I could see that one staying that way.
More stuff is starting to open up right now, so
True.
We've got a couple months. Things could change.
8BitDo has announced a new 8BitDo Pro 2 controller wired for just $35.
Yeah.
Which is just a darn good controller for $35.
Right? It's what used to be called the SN30 Pro is now just the 8BitDo Pro 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, this one...
This is the one with the back paddles, right?
Right, and it works on Switch and PC. There was a previous wired Pro 2 that was just for Xbox. And did not work on the Switch. And this one works on the Switch, but not on the Xbox.
I wish Microsoft would just open their shit up
Right.
and let 8BitDo make a goddamn controller adapter that works on the Xbox.
Seriously.
Twisted Metal is getting a TV show on Peacock.
I saw somebody in our chat refer to Peacock as the cock. I'm okay with this. I'm on board with that.
Hey, you watching Twisted Metal on the cock?
Hey, Frogger's about to come on the cock.
What was that ESPN joke? ESPN ate the Ocho?
The Ocho, yeah.
Was that it? Makes you think about the Ocho.
Hey, what channel is that on? That on the Ocho or the cock?
I don't know why Twisted Metal, of all video games,
Right.
to get a TV show.
Yeah.
Twisted Metal
Right.
in 2022?
Did Twisted Metal even have that much story? Like, I played it, and I remember there being characters, but I don't remember having a ton of story.
I remember there being a clown and you shot rockets out of your car. That's all I remember.
I always played as the Ghost Rider looking guy on the motorcycle.
Fun fact, the first Twisted Metal I put more than 15 minutes into was the PS3 one.
Oh.
Which was pretty fun. It was a pretty fun game.
Yeah, as long as you didn't play any of the prior games, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Bandai Namco announced significant pay raises for developers in the wake of Elden Ring's release. So
Good.
That's
Do
good to
that.
hear.
Do more of
I want to
that.
hear that more often.
Right?
Sony will no longer service the PS3 in Japan. Sorry, Japan.
Which is the last region they were still servicing the PS3 in. So that generation is dead now.
Yeah. Yuji Horii honored with GDC Lifetime Achievement Award in a news headline that inevitably scared the shit out of Saturn.
Yeah, right. Anytime I see a picture of a developer or famous person and their name at the beginning of a news story, I just assume they're dead.
How have we not learned to rephrase headlines as like GDC Lifetime Achievement Award given to Yuji Horii? Don't start with their name. We assume
Right?
they're dead.
Yes.
Never start with their names.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. Oh no. In television, Amico fundraising campaign was cut short.
What?
Tommy Tallarico has set his Twitter to private and is apparently ignoring everyone.
What?
And I know the Amico was just really set up for success and somehow has seemingly started to fall apart right here at the end.
Hey, you remember 6 months ago when they started physically selling the games?
Yeah, you remember the second they announced it when we said this is going to be a horrible failure that we're going to enjoy watching fail?
Yeah. I think we called it future vaporware.
Yeah, that sounds like something I'd say. I would be, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. The Amico, like the Atari VCS, which I believe I also called vaporware,
Yeah.
is going to come out. They're going to release it.
Really something.
There's too much crowdfunding.
Yeah.
But like the VCS, They're going to release exactly the bare minimum to meet whatever legal promises they have to people involved, and then they will be done.
Now, that's if they can afford to do so.
True.
Because if they can't, they may just declare bankruptcy and hide from everyone.
Because the VCS came out in extremely limited quantities and then was gone, and nobody fucking cared because it was dead the second they announced it.
And then it came back for Black Friday somehow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess we found more. The Amico is. Oh my god.
Yeah. What a ridiculous chronicle this has been.
What an ugly, dumb, badly designed, bad-looking, inevitably bad-functioning game with a shitty business model and the worst front man. Tommy Tallarico, I'm sure, is a very nice person. And he seems very excited at the idea of, as he calls it, couch co-op gaming.
Right.
Or he has this whole spiel about, like, video games used to be a fun thing we did together, and now they're not. And I'm like, no, I still play video games with my friends.
Right.
Over the internet.
Yeah.
It's very fun. I have a good time doing it. It just feels like someone's grandpa trying to invent a video game console, having never seen anything since the 70s.
You know who I think the winner in this is Mattel for not letting themselves get associated with it at all.
It just feels like someone's grandpa being like, oh, we gotta make a video game. What do kids like? They like them iPods.
They love Earthworm Jim. I did that.
Let's put some iPods in it and put that Earthworm on it. Got the video games. We'll put some cornhole on it. So it's been good. I
always forget about virtual cornhole on the Amico.
Cornhole. Fuck Elden Ring. Fuck the PlayStation 5. Fuck all that. Let's play virtual cornhole on an iPod. The fuck is happening?
Nothing is what's going to end up happening with it.
Hackers managed to get Vita code to run natively on the Switch via a translation layer.
That's exciting to me. I am so stoked about that. They've got Vita games playing on the Switch. That's exciting to me.
Vita really does mean life, so it will not die. Now it's inhabiting the bodies of other consoles.
Nice.
PlayStation Studios will be reviving a, quote, extremely popular franchise this year.
I think it's going to be Twisted Metal to coincide with the show on the cock.
Yeah, that would. It's right below the Ocho. Yeah, that does seem to track.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they would announce a fucking Twisted Metal TV show on the cock and then be like, yeah, but we're going to revive something else.
Yeah, but what we really wanted to revive was Siphon Filter.
Activision Blizzard is having a hard time finding employees, citing recent allegations and lawsuits. I know, I'm blown away that a corporation would have consequences for their actions as well. Won't someone please think of the corporations?
Won't somebody please think of the shareholders?
Just fucking bite me, Activision. Fuck off.
Right?
I can't handle it. It makes me so angry.
Yeah.
Everything about them that they've done.
All the
lawsuits,
Tony Hawk remake I heard was all right.
All the allegations, the stories, horrible shit. Yeah,
it is.
And people don't want to work for you now.
Weird. That's so weird.
What? I can't fucking believe it, Activision.
Maybe
I feel so bad for Bobby Kotick.
Maybe they're getting a better offer going to get a job making a TV show on the cock.
House of the Dead remake releasing on Switch and Stadia on April 7th.
It's good. I've been wondering about that because they had announced it in that Nintendo Direct like a year and a half ago, and then radio silence.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if that was still coming around. So I'm glad to see it actually has a date now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
A weird choice of platforms though. Just Switch and Stadia so far.
Yeah, I assume they made a deal with Stadia whenever Stadia was like still forthcoming.
Yeah, when it still existed.
And now they're like, oh, you guys are still doing that? We still need to honor that? Google's like, yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Be good. That brings us to the topic at hand. This week we're talking Sid Meier's Pirates.
Yo ho ho.
Specifically the 2004 Sid Meier's Pirates.
The remake.
Not the old one.
Yes, not the 1987 game.
which I've been told is a thing that we'll talk more about later. This was developed by Firaxis. Came out on PC, published by Atari, reissued by 2K Games on November 22nd, 2004. Came out on Xbox July 11th, 2005, PSP January 22nd, 2007, and Wii September 28th, 2010. I did not know there was a Wii version.
There is.
The first version of this I played was the PSP version. And first of all, I was just excited to have a PSP game.
It's a good game, too, on PSP.
I thought it was just fantastic. Most of my PSP playing was in school, between classes, at lunch, breaks at work, after school. So it really does lend itself really good to kind of bite-sized play sessions.
Yeah.
And I played a freaking ton of it on PSP.
Yeah.
And just loved it. I had no idea who the fuck Sid Meier was. But man, he made a good PSP game, which is what I assumed was the only platform this game was on.
That's what he did. He was well-known PSP artist.
Because I had never heard of it.
No,
but yeah,
I'd played the original Pirates on NES and Genesis. I did not play the PC version, but I did play it on the other consoles. Pirates Gold on Genesis, by the way, is excellent. If you've not played the Genesis version of Pirates Gold, you absolutely should. It's an excellent port. And I remember that was one of the first expensive Genesis games I remember seeing. It was like 2003, and somebody was like, that game is like $50. I'm like, for a Genesis game?
Yeah.
But no, it was good. So when this one was announced, I was like, of course, I have to buy a remake of Pirates. And also I was deep in a Civ 3 obsession at the time, too. So I was like, also, I have to reward Sid Meier for his previous addiction that he gave me.
And he keeps returning the envelopes of cash you've been mailing him.
Yeah, and he keeps returning them, but now they're filled with cocaine or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I pre-ordered it, bought it at release on PC, and just played a disgusting amount of it for months.
Yeah. Let's talk background and development for Sid Meier's Pirates.
Yes. So
because I don't know anything about the original game.
Yeah. So the original was similar, though it took itself slightly more seriously than the remake. But it was a pirate simulation game. You simulated the life of a pirate in the
scurvy
in the Caribbean. There's scurvy.
Simulated the scurvy.
You mostly simulate the scurvy. So the original game, Sid Meier's Pirates, came out in 1987. And though it is a good game of its own right, it is most noteworthy for being the first game that Microprose put Sid Meier's name on.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it specifically because he was a super noteworthy person. They did it because they were watching something and they saw a book or a movie or something was referred to as this author's whatever, and they're like, we should do that for video games. I bet that would make it look more prestigious than it is.
It's funny because in my head I always just assumed they put it on there because it makes the game sound a lot less generic.
Right. And
when you hear like, hey, what are you playing? Pirates. it sounds a lot less compelling than Sid Meier's Pirates, because you want to be like, well, who's Sid Meier? What's notable about his Pirates?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is the NES version is just called Pirates. They took
that's a boring name.
Konami took Sid Meier's name right the fuck off of it. But no, it was really we could do a whole fucking episode about the 87 game,
right?
Because of what all it introduced to the genre. But it was a noteworthy game, and it did very well. So as far as this game, they, according to Jake Solomon, who was a lead designer at Firaxis, he said that when they started development, Sid wasn't really involved much. It was just they wanted to remake the original game. Right. And as they were working on it, they hit some roadblocks trying to make the ship battles. And Sid Meier came in, saw that they were having problems, said, let me have a crack at it, and completely rebuilt the ship combat from scratch over the weekend. Because that's apparently how Sid Meier did things at the time.
That's just a Sid Meier thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, and he said that from that point forward, Meyer had ended up handling most of the game's programming to the point where most of the code was done by Sid Meier or directly directed specifically by him.
Yeah.
So he was very involved from that point forward. And he said once Sid got involved, they really quickly ramped up production, had the entire project done within a year. I found an interview from one of the artists, Mark Hudgens. He said the he enjoyed the specific atmosphere of the game just because it was pirates, and this was around the time, I think it was a year or so before, or a couple of years before Pirates of the Caribbean came out. So
Right.
this was before the big Pirates Renaissance. But he still enjoyed being able to do something that was a little goofier after having worked on Civilization 3, which is very, very serious as far as a Civilization game goes.
Yeah.
And so being able to do something that's a little more goofy and lighthearted and take influence from all these pirate stories and Peter Pan and stuff like that. And several of the people that talked about the game said that throughout development there was just one rule that they kept going back to anytime they were working on a mini game or anytime they were working on a mechanic was, would I want to sit there and play this? And if they didn't, they just throw it away. And that's,
You know,
it sounds
it's-
stupid, but that
Yeah.
does make sense when you play the game.
that sounds like one of those things where, like, why would you ever design a game that you wouldn't want to, like,
Right.
who's sitting there like, I'd never play this fucking shit.
I assume that what they mean by that is, when you're looking at a game, sometimes you're like, oh, I need to pad something out a little bit. I need to keep this
Yeah.
from being too easy. And instead they were just like, I don't care. Do I want to do this or not? And
Yeah.
it does, based on the scope of the game, which we'll get to, it does make sense that they would want to narrow it down to that.
And it does, it's yeah, I feel like the game is very streamlined
Yeah.
feeling.
Absolutely.
Let's talk presentation because kind of like you talked about in development a little bit. It really is presented very silly.
Yeah.
The whole game is
Very, very tongue in cheek. It doesn't
it-
take itself seriously at all.
yeah, it's a pretty goofy game. Graphically, it's just kind of cartoony enough that you're not really too worried about the fact that you're mercilessly murdering people.
Right.
You're
pirating.
Yeah, you're out there and you're doing your pirate thing,
Right.
but it
Stealing booty
doesn't.
and stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't feel too. Because pirates are pretty brutal,
They can be merciless. Yeah.
pretty
They
brutal
were known
individuals.
for that.
But it really does kind of take that out of it a little bit.
Right.
As far as sound design goes, I would call the music serviceable.
Yeah, it's super catchy.
Yeah.
I immediately think of any number of tracks from the game anytime I think about it, just because they all were kind of earworms and would get stuck in my head.
Yeah.
But they are also very generic piratey things. Like they feel like something that would fit in any kid's movie about pirates.
Yeah, I think it backs up the visual aesthetic of the game just fine.
Absolutely.
Again, it's not the kind of soundtrack I want to sit down and listen to.
No.
Unless I'm like
Playing
doing a
pirates.
pirate
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, playing pirate
Right.
in my yard like I do.
I meant playing the game Pirates, not.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant just playing. Why? If I was playing pirates in the yard, I would listen to the soundtrack then. But beyond
Your laptop set up,
that,
sunning.
neighbors outside playing pirates again. Let's talk gameplay because I love how this game is structured.
Yes.
Because there's no real, like, there is a driving narrative.
Yes.
Right.
There's a supposed objective.
But there's no real.
There's no
push. It's
consequence
very-
for doing whatever you want.
Yeah, it's very open.
Yes.
You can very much kind of go wherever you want, do whatever you want, and interact with these different systems. Because the game is effectively a collection of mini games.
Right.
Like when you really break it down, it's what is it? I think there's 9 of them.
I only counted 6, but there could be others that I'm not remembering right.
Yeah, it's just this handful of mini games that you interact with through the effective main menu of sailing around the Caribbean.
Right.
in different situations. And that really loose framework means that you sitting down to play a game of Pirates like how much, because I don't know this, how much of the games, like when you start a new campaign, how much of it is randomized?
Not a lot, honestly. A lot of it is preset as far as which cities are going to belong to which territory, and based on which country you choose to ride with originally, will determine your affiliations at the beginning of the game, and really how easy or hard it is going to be to get to the position you want to be in.
Yeah. Because like when you sit down to play it, your play sessions very quickly differ from one another.
Yeah.
Just kind of depending on how you want to engage with the game. So I guess we can kind of talk about the mini games or modes, or I don't know what you want to call them. The one you spend probably most of the time engaging with is sailing.
Right.
Which is kind of the only one that I find a little frustrating.
Because the wind is always blowing straight west for some reason.
Yeah, it never shifts. And you'll get all the way to the western edge of the Caribbean and be like, oh shit, I got to go back.
Yeah, and the weird thing is there's a on-screen wind indicator. And I don't know why they bothered, because it seems to always be west.
I've never seen it not pointing west. Inevitably, there has to be some. Now, I will say, if I were to change anything about the game, one, I'd make the wind work properly, and two, I would add some kind of weather.
Yeah.
I feel like the sailing does get a little tedious, because sometimes it's like, all right, I'm all the way in the western side. I need to be all the way in the eastern side to get to whatever thing it is I'm trying to get to.
For some reason, I feel like I remember there being weather on the PC version.
There may have been. I've only played the Xbox and PSP versions. For the show, I played the Xbox version. So if the PC version has weather, then that's good.
Yeah, I want to say it has weather, and when you sail through a storm, you go faster, and that was about all it did, if I remember right.
See, that would be awful. Now I'm wishing I played the PC version. It'd be great. Yeah, I'm seeing right now. There's clouds and storms. Yeah, my Xbox version never showed clouds or storms.
Yeah,
it was just always smooth sailing.
Yeah.
But as you're sailing, your ship is your crew is consuming food, and eventually they get mutinous if you're out at sea too long. So you can't just go, oh, I need to go all the way over here. You have to stop at ports along the way.
Right. You got to get some food.
And stock up on food and do stuff, which it's not that the things aren't fun, but it's that sometimes when you're like, oh, I do really want to kind of follow the main plot of saving my sister from the Marquis de la Montauban, but it's kind of hard to, it forces you to meander to where you need to be instead of letting you just sort of, decide where you want to end up and have an easy and quick avenue to make your way from where you've ended up at all the way to where you want to be, because the way it introduces sort of plot things, or the way the story progresses as you're trying to go find the Marquis de Montauban, is in different taverns, you'll get the next little thread of what you need to do to continue your quest to save your sister.
Right.
So I do kind of wish it was a little easier to sort of go point to point in the story when you know where you need to be. But that said,
I want to say there was
go ahead.
Some kind of fast travel that you could unlock or something, or pay extra to go to a different port. But I don't recall exactly how that worked. So I don't want to say definitively, but I want to say that was in there.
There were some, you can fast travel to some ports.
Yeah.
But not all of them. And not all of them are listed on my map either.
True.
So it kind of depends on the positioning. So sometimes you can sort of fast travel around. Other times, or it's not even a fast travel so much as it is an auto travel. You'd pick a port and it'll auto sail you there, so you can kind of look away and stare at your phone or whatever. Let's talk naval battles.
Yes.
Which I find to be a lot of fun. You can attack any old ship whenever you want to.
Yep.
there doesn't seem to be any real indicator on how difficult the combat might be.
Yeah, so you can kind of guess just by the size of the ship. If it's a bigger ship, it's probably going to have a better defense. And then once the battle starts, you can also see what upgrades their ship has. So you can see if they have the better chain shot or reinforced plating or whatever upgrades they might have. But you can also really cheese the battles pretty easy.
Yeah.
Which really applies to almost every mechanic in this game. You can cheese it and kind of counteract most of the difficulty in the entire game.
Well, also, and this kind of gets into sword fighting and boarding ships, but you can do the normal naval battle where you fire your cannons and then you have to wait to reload. There's different types of shot you can use.
Yep. Buy more cannons, and that way you can fire again faster. There's upgrades you can get.
But you can also fire like those chain shots that specifically reduce the number of crew on the enemy vessel.
Yep.
Which is useful for bigger ships, because if there's too much crew, whenever you land on the ship, you can do enough damage that they just kind of surrender or sink.
Right.
But when you land on the ship, if there's too much crew, because your crew's kind of your timer. As you're sword fighting, if you run out of crew, you lose.
Right.
And your crew's always ticking down. So if there's way more crew than you have, you'll have to go through QuickTime sequences.
Right.
Where you have to press button combinations to kind of like do little flips and flourishes around the ship to knock out a bunch of the crew.
Yeah.
And really, in the naval battles, if it's a stronger ship, I just drive my ship straight into theirs and do the QuickTime events.
Right.
And then just do the sword fight, because I'm not going to be able to defeat their ship normally.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us into sword fighting. Now, in sword fighting, you get 3 different sword options. I only ever pick longsword.
Yeah, same here.
And on the easiest difficulty, the sword fighting was so easy that I never lost a battle.
Right.
I think I lost like the very first one because I didn't know the controls. But then once I knew the controls, it was just done.
On PC, like Civ 3, the entire game is played on the numpad.
Oh no,
no, it's fine. It's so easy.
Is it?
Oh man, it's so easy. Of course, it could be just because I played through several Civ games using only the numpad, so I got used to it. But man, it's so easy to just cheese battles because of it. Because you're just hitting basically 7 and 1 most of the time.
Yeah,
and occasionally 4 if you want to do a straight shot. But it's pretty easy to handle the sword fighting.
Yeah. For attacks, you have high, mid, low, and you have parry and taunt. On the easiest difficulty, honestly, just dodge.
Yeah.
Hit the parry button when they attack, and then attack back, and you'll be fine.
Really, you don't even need to parry if you're on the easiest difficulty. Just keep pushing forward, and eventually they'll fall.
There are occasionally sword fights in taverns that tend to be, or at least in my experience, seem more difficult than your ship sword fights.
Right.
And it's usually some guy being a jerk to the waitress that's in every tavern.
Yeah.
And then you sword fight him, and she hits him with a bottle.
Yeah. Which there are always little amusing cutscenes that play whenever you win a fight, which is great.
Now, when you take a ship, so you do your sword fight, or you fire enough that they give up their ship.
Yeah.
You take your plunder if you have enough cargo hold for it.
Right.
And then you can take their ship or sink it, and eventually you just end up with a whole bunch of ships.
Yeah. I think you can have max 6 or 7 or 8, something like that.
I don't know that I ever maxed it out. I think 3 or 4 is. I would get to 3 or 4, and then my crew would start bitching that we've not divided plunder in a long time.
Right.
And whenever you go back to port and you divide your plunder, they take your additional ships.
Correct.
You just keep your flagship, which I didn't know, and that sucks. But yeah, they mean divide all of the plunder.
Right.
They don't just want me to
ships.
give them gold. Yeah. That also kind of leads into effectively what is the difficulty tweak in the game. So whenever you divide plunder, you can upgrade your status to the next difficulty.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say that it's difficulty. It'll say you're an apprentice captain. Do you want to upgrade to like journeyman or whatever?
Right.
And I was like, all right, well, sure. It makes the game harder.
Right.
and suddenly it's actually difficult. It's not like
Unless you have been acquiring equipment this whole time, because if you keep rescuing family members and stuff, you're going to get bonuses to stats, and you're going to get equipment that upgrades your stats. And assuming you haven't gotten arrested, you'll still have all this stuff. And so when you divide your plunder and you level up, you're also more powerful. So it kind of counteracts the difficulty. So if you max out all your stuff and end up at the highest rank, the game isn't significantly more difficult than it was at the beginning.
Yeah. I did it too soon. I think is what happened. I did it too soon. Didn't know what it was. Went and fought one of the AI pirates.
Yeah.
And immediately went into a sword fight with him and just got walloped. And I was like, what is happening? Because it turns out I didn't know the sword controls.
Oh.
I thought I did because playing on easy mode, I only ever needed to do the attack button and the parry button.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was needing to do extra shit. And I was like, I have no idea.
Right.
And I lost my ship. I had Blackbeard's ship at that point in time, and I had it fully upgraded. It was upsetting. Tell me about the ground warfare, because I've only done it like twice.
Yeah. So, if you're attacking a city, or if you're attacking Montalban's hideout, it moves into this grid-based ground combat mode, and it's all turn-based, and the number of units you get are based on the size of your crew. It's basically just a little turn-based strategy game that it throws you into, and
I will say I expected a slightly more fluid turn-based strategy game from Sid Meier.
No, he's never done this before.
It's a little clunky.
It is, but it's manageable. I make this ridiculous goal for myself at the very beginning of the game. After the first few times that I played the game anyway, I always try to eliminate the Spanish from the Caribbean, which is difficult because they are the biggest nation in the Caribbean. And then my secondary goal is to give everything to the Dutch for some reason, because they're the smallest nation and I feel bad for them. And I want them to have more territory. So I just go about attacking cities and taking them over and then giving them to the Dutch. And I know that it's not an actual stated objective in the game, but it's just something that I gave myself as a challenge, and
it's your life goal.
Yeah, it makes the game way more dumb and interesting for me.
Now, because there doesn't seem to be any real benefit to taking over a port.
No, not really.
As far as I can tell.
Like if you're already at war with a nation, like if a nation has decided that you're a criminal and they don't like you, and there is something that you need in that town, that's when you would want to take it over.
Right.
But there's so few things that you would absolutely need in one town that you couldn't find somewhere else. So it's just a bonus thing to do.
Let's talk dancing.
There is dancing.
It's just rhythm-based QTEs. You dance with the governor's daughters. I believe eventually you can marry one.
Correct.
And that's one of the kind of main objectives in the game.
I love that the bartender will always tell you whether or not the governor's daughter is attractive. Yeah. Like that's important intel. Is
every bartender in every port has to know that information.
Right. And I love it because the characters in this game kind of talk like Sims do, and that like fake language.
They're very sim-like in a lot of the way they look,
their mannerisms
and move and stuff.
Yeah, and anytime that the bartender talks to you about anything, but I always notice it after he talks about the governor's daughter. He always says, "Oh darn it!" And so that's how I assume people just react when they see somebody attractive. It's like, oh, it's
of course
attractive daughter, darn it.
The dancing is probably the easiest of the mini games, honestly.
It's super easy.
It's pretty straightforward.
Sometimes
infiltration.
Sometimes the timing on the dancing can be a little tricky if you're trying to get the flourishes.
Yeah, they'll throw some weird QTEs at you sometimes too.
But if you're just trying to pass, no, it's super easy. But if you're trying to like fill up the heart gauge and get all the flourishes in time, it can be a little tricky.
Let's talk infiltration. Yeah. So if you're trying to sneak into a town because they won't let you dock there,
yes,
you can sneak in, and it sucks.
Yes,
this is the only mini game in the game that actually is just not fun.
Yeah.
You basically are running down the roads of the street, trying to avoid guards and trying to get to your destination. But the problem is, it's very much an over-the-shoulder camera.
Yeah.
So you can't really see where any guards are coming from. And it's just kind of not great.
Yeah, it didn't take me long to learn that if the game asked me, do you want to infiltrate, I'd just say no and go somewhere else.
Yeah. And if you get caught, you get put in prison,
Yes.
and you can either wait out your sentence or try to escape, where you are put right back into the infiltration minigame trying to escape from the town.
Yeah. Or you can bribe the guard.
True. Like, I don't know that I would say it's funny to me that they've locked you in jail and you have to bribe the guard. Like, wouldn't they have already taken all your money?
Right.
Wouldn't they have already pocketed that, like, to begin with?
Maybe you're like first mate is on the ship and you're like phoning in via Parrot to have him bring you some bribe money. I don't know.
Yeah, but then wouldn't they just
You'd think they'd have the ship by that point.
Yeah, or if not, they wouldn't believe that you would come back with the money. Which does bring us to kind of an important part of the game. Your character, there is sort of a hard limit on it because your character ages as time goes on. And anytime you divide your plunder, it uses up several months. Whenever you're in jail, it uses up several months.
Yes.
And the older you get, the harder stuff becomes for you to do, just like in real life. So your existential crisis can extend to Sid Meier's Pirates.
Sword fighting especially gets hard. As you get older, your character's reaction time gets so much worse in sword fighting that it becomes just practically impossible at a certain age.
Yeah. And then the other big feature are the 9 pirates that we talked about a little bit ago. They're kind of floating around the Caribbean that you can fight. They've usually got powered up ships.
Right.
You can also find their hidden treasures buried around the Caribbean, which is pretty fun. The maps suck really bad, though. They're very hard to find stuff
a lot
with.
of them are really dumb. Eventually, I just memorized all of them after playing it so much. But then it's been 15 years since I played it that much, and I went back and tried to play it for this episode. And I was like, I don't know what that fucking map means.
Yeah. And that's really the whole game. It's this kind of weird, loose collection of mini games that you engage with as you see fit.
Right.
What I really love about it is that there's parts of it that I'm not totally in love with. I don't love the infiltration. The ground warfare is kind of eh. Really, I like the naval battles and the sword fighting.
Yeah.
But since that's what I like, I can just do that.
Yeah.
And not do the other stuff.
Right. Now, not all of the ports have all the features. I know the PSP version didn't have dancing. I don't remember what else it might have been missing. And I want to say the Wii version is missing something, but I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't play that one.
Yeah. So it really is it's interesting that there's just not a lot of game here, to be honest.
Yeah, it feels
but
like
the game that is here is very fun. You can engage with it in the order, in the way that you want.
Right.
And it's just casual enough to just be a good time killer.
Yeah, and it feels like it's got just enough variety to it. And it has that same compelling time sinker mentality that Civilization does, where you don't realize how long you've been playing it sometimes.
Yeah, you're like, I'm just going to make it to this one next port or take one more ship or whatever. And you get stuck in that one more turn mentality for sure. For sure. I was kind of I assumed because again, there's not a ton of game here.
Right.
I assumed the PSP version had quite a bit cut out of it.
Yeah.
I don't think it had a ton, honestly. I mean, I think it was largely complete.
Yeah, it was still a pretty complete playable game. There were a handful of things missing, but it's still definitely worth picking up if you had it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I don't even do the campaign in Pirates really at all. I mostly just sail around and find the AI pirates and fight them, and that's my big that's like what I'm there to accomplish,
which is a lot of the game too, you know.
True. And then I just proceed to never find their damn treasure regardless of how many maps I find.
Well, you know, there's always the internet. It can tell you where they are.
No, It's cheating Saturn.
All right,
I'm
my
not.
bad.
I'm not a dirty cheater.
Yes, you are.
Despite what I said in the beginning of the show, where I talked about being a dirty cheater.
Right?
Tell me about the reception of Pirates.
It was received well.
Yes. Good job.
Yes. No. It was. It got very good reviews from fans and critics alike. The Wii version, however, seemed to not get as good of reviews. It was.
Yeah, GameSpot gave it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
They didn't like that.
I think part of it was just age, because it was already a 5-year-old game at that point.
Right.
And part of it is using a Wiimote to play Sid Meier's Pirates.
Yeah, I can't imagine sailing a ship with a Wii remote sound. It's very fun.
Right. Now, granted, I played the game with a numpad, so what room do I have to talk?
Yeah,
but
apparently there's an iOS port.
There were later kind of ports to mobile. I don't know how feature complete those are.
Yeah,
and they were.
It seems to it got okay reviews.
Yeah, it is. That port was not done by Firaxis though. That was outsourced to someone that I don't remember.
Yeah.
But Computer Games Magazine did name it the second best computer game of 2004, behind World of Warcraft.
Oh man,
I've heard of that one.
That one was a little bit popular. 2000 World of Warcraft, when it came out,
yeah,
it's like nothing else existed.
Oh yeah, just
they're like the rest of video games can stop for a little bit while we do World of Warcraft.
I know. I would go to my friend's house and ask to do literally anything else, and they would just stare at their screens and play World of Warcraft.
No thanks.
I'd go home and play Dragon Quest VIII.
Yeah. And I do kind of I don't know. I guess I don't want to say this feels like sort of a forgotten franchise, because it got a full remake that hit like every platform ever.
Right. Well, no, it hit like 4 platforms. We discussed that.
Well, yeah, I guess. I guess it just looks like more on the page. iOS, PC, PSP, Wii, and Xbox. That's a pretty good amount. It's missing the PS2.
Yeah, there's no well, the only PlayStation port was PSP, and the only Nintendo port was Wii.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird.
Yeah. But I really would like to see like a Pirates 2.
Yeah, I would love to see another remake of it, because this one is nearly as old as, actually it may be older than, it is older than the original was when that remake came out. So
yeah. Like, I don't know what Sid Meier's doing right now.
Probably Civ 7.
But he could stand to take a break from Civ, to do some Pirates 2.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
Or maybe a new Railroad Tycoon.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah.
As far as final thoughts, I like this game a lot. I wouldn't say that like I love the game.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I would call a filler game. It's something I'll sink a few hours in when I'm sort of in between games, or those afternoons where you're wanting to play something but you're kind of not in the middle of anything, but you don't want to start anything from the beginning.
Right.
It's a great game for that. The same way Civ is, where you can just kind of sit down and sink an afternoon, have a good time, and then just be done with it for a year, and then come back to it.
Or you could get addicted to it and play it every day for 2 months and then never touch it for 10 years.
Or you could, that's the Saturn path.
Yeah.
You could choose option B there if you want. But I think it's great. It's still accessible. The PC version's still available. I'd be shocked if it...
I do want to mention that. The PC version, it is still available. You can buy it. It does not support widescreen. And if you try to play it in a widescreen resolution, your text will be off screen, but your cursor still thinks it's hovering over it.
Oh, no.
So you have to play it in a 4:3 resolution. So if your monitor doesn't support 4:3 resolutions, you can have some problems. You may have to stretch things or something, but so there are some resolution issues playing it on a modern machine. But if you can get around that, the game still plays fine.
Now, the Xbox version also still works. You can buy it on Xbox Live, as I did.
Yeah.
But it does not support Quick Resume.
True. It is a game from 2005.
And so not being able to Quick Resume it kind of damages the playability for me on Xbox specifically.
Yeah.
But you can also kind of save anywhere, so it's not really a major deal.
Yeah, I popped in my disc that I purchased in 2005 and played it on my Series X, which is still pretty impressive to me.
In my head, I thought you were talking about the PC version. And I was like, how? Jeez, what? Anyway, no, I think it's a great game. I really enjoy this one. Again, it's not the kind of game that I wake up like dying to play.
No.
But I think it's a great filler game. Like if you're out there and you have not played Sid Meier's Pirates, I think you should definitely pick it up because it's cheap on basically everything it's on.
Yes.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
Even on Xbox Live, it's like $9.
Yeah.
I think it's on GOG. I'm sure it's on Steam.
Yeah, it is.
You know, so
And
it's,
it was just
it's out there.
recently in a bundle of Fire Access games for like $4 for 20 games.
Oh
or
yeah, it
something.
was. I almost bought that bundle just because I wanted to play the PC version too, but then I was like, no, I'm in the middle of the Xbox version. I'm probably not going to, so I did not. Anywho, yeah, that's Sid Meier's Pirates. You should play it. It's a fun time.
Definitely.
Even today.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend the PSP version as well if you like playing PSP games, which you should because it's a great system.
And if for some reason you play this and your thought is, this just isn't old enough for me, I need something older, go find the Genesis version of Pirates Gold. It's still good.
There you go. Or go find our Patreon at patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where you can get Talking Wizards and After Hours and Uncut Shows and our undying gratitude.
Or
Like, or don't. Or you could be thanked like the following patrons, starting with Mark Schwickendie-Offmeyer,
and Chris Courage,
Michael Cabetti,
and Chris,
Konshu,
Michael Winters.
Andrew Scalf,
A winner is me,
Zero Scroll, Fernando Benavides,
and Amarlian.
are all patrons who we want to thank for the money that they give us because
It's this is a pirate themed episode. It's the booty that they give us.
for the booty that they give us because we enjoy it.
Thank you for your booty.
Thank you for your booty. Anyway, rate and review the show. It helps out a lot. Thank you for listening to the show. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.